Hi there. My name is Jack Wallen. And if you've spent any time watching my videos, you can probably tell that I'm not well. For about 5 or 6 days, I've been really sick, like COVID sick. Yeah. And I am now able to stand and walk and shower. And today was the first time I did my hair for a while. And I've been sleeping a lot and thinking a lot, as I am wont to do. So I apologize for my voice, but hey, that's what you get. One of the things that I've been thinking about while I've been prostrate on the couch in the bed and is balance. So while I am unable to do anything, if you're like me and you place a high importance on exercise, when you get sick, one of the first things that you realize is I can't do the things that I do normally. I can't exercise. I haven't exercised since last Saturday. So the whole time I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose all my fitness. I'm going to gain weight. I'm going to do all of these things are going to happen. And then you realize, well, you know what? No matter how badly I want to go out and run or get on the rowing machine or whatever, I can't. I can't do it. But then you think deeper about it, which is what I did, and I sound like Froggy from The Little Rascals. I just really aged myself. I'm sorry. But you realize one of the things that occurs to you, I hope it occurs to you while you're out cold, is that it's probably a good thing. For instance, I was having trouble with my heels, and because I run so much, and it was probably a good thing that I got laid up because my body got a chance to heal and recover. But that's not really what I want to talk about because that's just the obvious thing. I have considered this concept of balance for a long time because I think it's important. Now, when most people think about balance, one of the first things that comes to mind, not yoga, although balance is important in yoga, one of the first things that comes to mind is the whole work-life balance. And anytime I hear that, I want to laugh because if the big corporations out there, the big business. I don't know why I had to put air bunnies around big business, but big business. They would have you think that work-life balance is a 50-50 split. That you should be able to figure out a way to dedicate 50% of your life to your work and 50% of your life to your life. And to me, that is ludicrous. That's not balance. I know it seems like on paper, it seems like, oh yeah, 50-50 split, that's perfect balance. You know, it's like, okay, work and life, yeah, there we go, right there. You got the good balance going on because you're giving 50% of your life to the business and 50% of the life to you. But that's not balance. A good balance, I think, of this whole work-life thing would be like 70-30, with 70% being your life and 30% being your work. And I get it. I get it. You have to work. You have to work to be able to live, which is the big conundrum. It's the trap. It is a trap that you have to work to live. I mean, think about that. If you literally gave a 50-50 split to your work-life balance, 50% of your life is dedicated to something that you probably don't care about in the grand scheme of things. I mean, do you really, really love and care about your job in regards to your life? Which is more important, your life or your work? And to those people that say, well, they're equal. Well, why are they equal? Why is it that this job that you have that most likely is making other people money, why is that as important as your life? Ask yourself that question. Now, I'm not posing this so you could go, well, he's right. I need to do something about that. I either need to find a new job where I don't have to spend so much time and effort and be taken away from the life that I actually want to live. Well, what am I going to do about that? That's not what I'm saying. And in fact, this whole discussion here is not just about a work-life balance. That was just kind of my introduction to this. Because the whole work-life balance is something that everybody can relate to. And it's taken me a very, very, very long time to get to the point where I have found this equilibrium where I know how much effort that I can give to work such that it doesn't take away from life. Now, that's not to say I work hard. When I sit down to write, it's like I am all in, and mentally I am laser focused, and I like the other night when I was I didn't stop writing while I was sick. I would write a little bit, I would nap a little bit. I'd write a little bit, I would nap a little bit. But I clocked myself once, and I was able to bang out 1,000 words in 45 minutes. I'm like, okay, yeah, I've got this figured out. But this whole thing the combination of me being sick and trying to figure out how I can continue banging out words and not suffer the consequences of not giving my body and my mind and everything the rest it needed to recuperate. I realized that that kind of balance is so crucial to the well-being of me. Not just me, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally and creatively. I have to have some sort of balance. And that balance traverses every aspect of my life. It's like the whole yin and yang thing. You know, you've heard you can't have good without evil. And I think that any time any aspect of our lives gets out of balance, things get wonky. And sometimes it can be the smallest thing. You know, it's like exercise. Let's talk about exercise for a second. I have had periods of my life where I have dedicated too much time and effort to exercise, to the point where my body was breaking down, and I didn't realize it until it was too late. And I wasn't taking in enough nutrition. I wasn't drinking enough water. And I'm at that one point in my life, I was really surprised that I survived it. And it wasn't like it wasn't a desperate need to be thin, because that's not who I am. It was just I had become obsessed with it. And it took me a long time to realize that obsession was doing me harm. So that imbalance, I had to fix that imbalance. And I mean, I was, at that time, I was I was right. I was that was when I was a member of the Stage One Repertory Company. So I was riding my bike to rehearsals or performances, and then between rehearsal and performance, I was going to a gym and spending 2 hours at a gym, and then I would ride my bike home, or I would ride my bike to rehearsal, and then I'd ride my bike home, and then I would exercise at home. So I was probably spending 4 or 5 hours a day exercising on top of performing. And the shows that we were performing were physically demanding. So I'd probably gotten down to 115 pounds. I was emaciated, and it took someone pointing that out to me to go, oh, okay, I have found a drastic imbalance in my life, and I had to do something about it. Here's another example of this imbalance, and this is a stupid thing that happened to me. I was suffering from, well, I went to a couple. I was having just terrible stomach cramps to the point where I was doubled over in pain. And I went to 2 or 3 different doctors, and they could not figure out what it was. One doctor said I needed to ingest glucose because there was something wrong with my stomach and it was digesting food too quickly or whatever. That didn't do any good. Other doctors, there were so many different things. And there was one time I remember I went to a performance of a show, and right before the performance of the show, I got the cramps hit me again, and they almost had to cancel the show. I was like, no, I will suffer through this. I'm not doing it. Well, fast forward a few years, and I realized what it was. I was eating too much granola. It was as simple as that. I love granola, and I was eating it every morning, and sometimes I would eat it for lunch or whatever, and all that fiber was just causing these terrible cramps. I was like, I got to do something about that. So I found this balance between just the right amount of granola and the right amount of something else for breakfast, and then the cramps went away. Our bodies are really good at telling us when we're out of balance, and we have to listen to them. And I can't tell you how many people I know that just simply don't drink enough water. And they don't realize that they're suffering from it. And I'll tell them, dude, drink more water. Like, that's not going to do me any good. It will. Trust me. And I've gone to the extreme on that. I've had periods where I've drank too much water. And it's like, what is going on with me? Oh, okay. I need to cut back on that. And it's remarkable how just the slightest bit of imbalance can throw us off. And I mean, it's like, for me, there's another aspect of this. There's the whole introvert and extrovert thing, and I kind of straddle those two areas. Like, you put me in a crowd of people, and I'm like, woo, all right, let's, hey, I'm Mr. Fun Guy. Yeah, let's do this. And then excuse me. And then when I'm alone, I'm like, so I have to find a balance between being alone and peopling. And my problem is that if I'm alone too much, I start to, I have trouble getting out of my head. And it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like I spend too much time alone, and then all of a sudden I just want to be alone. I don't want to interact with people. I don't want to go outside. I don't want to do anything. And then I have to go, you know what? This whole extrovert introvert thing is out of balance. You've got to go hang out with somebody. You got to go call somebody on the phone, do something. And I do that, and all of a sudden I feel, okay, everything's right again. And there are other things. Like sometimes I will, when I'm in the middle of writing a new book, I will become so obsessed with that story that I get caught up in my head so much that it's almost hard for me to relate to reality. And I have to tell myself, no. You're not writing it right now. Don't think about it. Give yourself a little bit of grace and just say, okay, I don't have to constantly think about this. It's going to write itself. It's going to get done. You don't have to be thinking about it all the time. And it's funny, just in talking about this right now, my mind went, oh, the book we're writing. Are we done with it or not? And that's, I mean, that's another story for another time. Or, well, I guess I could tell you that I think I finished the second book in my new sci-fi series, but I'm not sure because I left it on a cliffhanger. And there's another bit of balance. Do I leave it on this cliffhanger, or do I keep writing until there's some sort of conclusion for this book? Or do I leave it on a cliffhanger so people want to go on to the third book? Everything is about balance and overthinking. If I just have to mention the word overthinking, and anybody watching this will go, yep, that's me. How do you strike a balance between overthinking and underthinking? Or overthinking and thinking the right amount? Well, for me, it's really just when I get caught up in that spiral of overthinking something, I just have to go, okay, you're doing it again. Trust your instincts. And a lot of times that's all I need to find that balance, to just trust my instinct. Because if there's one thing in my life that has generally served me well, it's that. It's my creative instinct. And I know this for a fact. If I start overthinking things, it's like I'm pushing aside my instinct and saying, nope, you don't have this. I've got this. My brain's got this. And inevitably, that's going to lead to problems. So I just have to go, nope, I can't overthink this. If I overthink this, I'm going to ruin it. And that's a hard one. That is probably the hardest bit of balance I struggled to achieve, because my brain always wants to go, nope. You got to think about this. You got to think way too much about this. Because if you don't think way too much about it, it's going to suck. Or this is a really awful thing that a lot of creative people suffer from. They think, if I don't overthink this, then I'm not giving it the time, attention, and care it needs. Because if I underthink it, it's going to suck. If I don't think about it enough, then I'm a fraud. And I think that's the trap. That's the trap. That we feel like, creative people feel like, if I don't spend 99% of my day thinking about this, then I'm an imposter, then I'm a fraud. Well, guess what? And this is just the way I feel about this. Whether you're thinking about your creative endeavors or not, somewhere in the back of your head, or the front of your head, or the side, or whatever, your mind is still churning and burning on it. And I've had those instances where it's like, I've written myself, I've intentionally, as I've said before, I've intentionally written myself into a corner. And when I do that, the next day I'm like, okay, how am I going to get out of this? What am I going to do? And I sit and I ponder it, and I ponder it, and I ponder it, and I'm like, I'm not coming up with anything. I don't have a solution for this problem I just forced upon myself. And I just tell myself, balance, baby, balance. Stop thinking about it. Stop thinking about it, and it'll come to you. And inevitably, that's exactly what happens. I stop forcing myself to come up with a solution. I strike a balance between overthinking and underthinking, and it just happens. Next time I sit down in front of my laptop, my fingers just go, oh, there we go. There it is. There it is. There it is. You know, and there are other balances. It's like, I'm very keen in my writing on having a balance between narration and dialogue. Narration, description, and dialogue, actually. That's kind of the trilogy for me, the Holy Trinity. Narration, description, and dialogue. I like to have a balance, a one-third, one-third, one-third balance between those three things. And I can always tell when I go back and I read something that I've written, I'm like, oh, nope, there's too much dialogue there. There's a big old long string of dialogue. And that doesn't always work. If it were a play or a script, it would be fine. But I've got to add some color in there. And, it's like, for me, the way I see it is that dialogue is black and white. And then the description and narration is the color. So if you have too much dialogue, there's not enough color. So you've got to get that balance. You don't want too much color, because if you have too much color, then you're kind of setting aside the character or the character growth or development. So you need, or the interaction between the characters. You need that. You need that balance. I mean, it's just like in theater. You need a balance between comedy and tragedy. Everything. Every aspect of your life has to have balance. Now, that doesn't mean that your whole life has to be this one big thing of balance, because you can't do that. But, you can have a balance between work and life, family and friends, serious and silly. That's an important one, especially for creative people. You have to have a balance between serious and silly. Don't take yourself serious all the time. I think my mic just fell. Yep. Hold on, people. I'm not giving up on this one. I'm not giving up on this one. You're gonna hear some noise. Gonna hear some noise. There's my microphone in the bad tape. Rumble, rumble, rumble. I apologize for this. Let me see if I can get this retaped. Oh, this is gonna be awful. But you know what? I've got to find some new mic tape. I apologize. At least I felt it that time. It wasn't a surprise. It wasn't all of a sudden I'm doing this video and then my voice goes. Again, serious and silly. Good example right there. I guess it was apropos, right? It was good timing. You got to be able to be silly. Every creative person needs. It's like, for me to be a creative person, I have to have a balance between being an adult and being a child. Because if I can't be a child, did that mic fall again? No, it did not. If I can't be childish at any point in the day, then my creativity is going to suffer. Because children are the bomb at being creative. So allow yourself that balance between being a child and being an adult, being serious, being silly, dark and light, loud and soft. No, it's like when I'm listening, here's a good example. If I'm listening to a metal song and that song is nothing but blast beats, it's going to annoy me. I'm like, you know what? It's too much. I need just to, like, give me a normal rhythm every once in a while. Give me a rhythm that I can groove to for a second before you hit me with some blast beats. The brrr. Everything in life is balance. And I would ask each and every one of you to start considering that and find the places in your life that are out of balance. And if you find something that's out of balance, figure out how you can put it into balance. Because the second you can, everything else just kind of falls into place. And sometimes it's as simple as finding a balance in one aspect of your life. And once you've done that, you'll be like, oh, I see now. Let me see if I can balance everything else out. Look, I'm spending too much money on this. Let me stop spending so much money on this. I'll spend a little more money on this. It's like balancing your checkbook. Do people even do that anymore? I haven't balanced a checkbook in a long time, and I used to be like anal about it. So please find a balance in your life. existence is so much better when you can do that. And you'll just find that life is easier when everything's in balance. And I'm not going to lie to you. It's not always, you can't always keep everything in balance all the time. Something's going to get out of whack. And when it gets out of whack, it's a domino effect. So find out what went wrong, what got out of balance, put that back into balance, and hopefully everything else will just line right back up. Anyway, that's really all I've got to say. That's probably all my voice can tolerate today. Sorry about my little mic issue. I promise I will find some better mic tape for that. Or a better way to tape my mic up. It's always a problem. Got to find the balance between sticky and non-sticky. Anyway, thank you so very much for spending a little time with me today and suffering through this froggy voice of mine. And hopefully next time I'm sitting in front of my camera, I will sound like me and I will be completely recovered from whatever this is. Bleh. Anyway, thank you very much. And I hope that you and everyone you know and love have a wonderful, wonderful day.